Okay, so before we begin this video, I want everyone to know that number one, this is going to be a dark subject, and number two, I am eternally grateful for the people who have come on here and spoken in front of my camera, which is my cell phone, and told their story. So their discretion is advised because these are real life stories.
Hi, I'm Tim the Uncle. I am the uncle of Dottie the Psychic, and she has asked me to talk about a period of my life. I am a suicide survivor, and that brings up a lot of thoughts to people's minds. So I was coming here, I guess, to help dispel some of those. First of all, it happened back probably about 1989, 90. I was young. I'd probably been suffering from clinical depression since the early 80s, from high school, actually even in the 70s, and I had never done anything to treat it. I was a good Appalachian boy and believed that you pulled yourself up with your bootstraps, and that, that what's wrong with you? Can't you get over these feelings of inadequacy? Well, it was a night, and alcohol was involved, and I attempted cutting my wrist open. Suicide is it's a long-term solvent for a short-term problem, and I got to be honest with you, it changed a lot in my life, but for the better in some ways. I'm not saying that everyone should try it, but for me, it made me recognize I was not well. And of course, at that time, and still to this day, there's a great deal of stigma attached to being suicidal. You're crazy, you're weak, what's wrong with you? Get out of bed, you can get up and do whatever you need to do. You'd never say that to a cancer patient. You'd never say that to someone with diabetes. If you just thought about it, your pancreas should make more insulin. I have a serotonin uptake issue, and I take Prozac every morning. I am doing well now, but it took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of honesty on my own self. Suicide doesn't define me. Most people don't know that I attempted suicide. Most people wouldn't know unless they see this, or I would come up in conversation, they'd ask me, but it doesn't define me. I am a person with a mental illness, and it's treated. That's a great thing. I'm also diabetic. It's treated too. But it's amazing that being a diabetic doesn't make people look at you sideways, but having a mental illness does. Am I crazy? Am I unstable? Well, some people might argue that point, but really, it's the same as any disease. And the thing is about suicide and depression, I can talk only for myself. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I can speak of my own experience. And I know that it lies to you. Depression lies. It tells you how worthless you are, how nobody loves you, how you're unworthy of love, how you're a failure. How dare you breathe oxygen when other people are more needful of it? It's the biggest liar out there. And it wears you down. Suicide's not about death. It's about an end of pain. And in my family, we have had attempts, and unfortunately, we've had some people succeed. And I think people don't realize, myself included, when I was in that state of mind, that you're not alone. No one's ever alone. You matter to someone. I don't care who you are. You've got somebody out there that cares about you. You've got at least a pet, maybe a goldfish, but somebody needs you. valuable to know that. I call it my dragon. I fight the dragon every day, and some days the dragon is pretty mean. Some days it is everything I could do to get out of bed and go to work and deal with it. But my gosh, I know what it is now. And that's one of the things I think, if your idealization on, or if you're thinking about, I probably have to edit that, but if you're thinking about suicide, you're not alone. Someone cares about you a lot. Everybody's somebody's child, or cousin, or uncle. And you know what? Somebody out there cares about you. And the loss of you as an individual is too great. Don't do it. Find help. Go to a hospital. Talk to a friend. Call the suicide hotline, which I think Dottie will probably put on here later. But please, know that you have value. Know that someone cares. I've been there, and I know what it's like to feel that alone, that empty. It sucks bad. Let me tell you, when you get through to the other side, it feels pretty darn good to know that how many people do love you. Dottie and I were talking about an incident. I was with my mom, and I told her that people didn't really like me. They just thought I could make them. I just thought I could make them laugh, and they just wanted me around to have a good time. But they really didn't like me, and that's a lie. Suicide and depression were lying to me, and I believed them. Don't believe them. And if I could leave you with any one thought at the end, just know that there's always another day. And every day there's an opportunity for things to get better. Nothing ever stays the same. And it can always improve. I know that I'm no longer suicidal. Idealization.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of it came because of therapy. I had to recognize my own triggers, things that make me feel bad. I had to watch my diet. Carbohydrates are probably one of the worst things for me. Alcohol is not good for me, even though I occasionally like a good beer. For me, I guess it's when I knew that even though I might feel depressed, I knew it was chemical. Serotonin. That's why I take Prozac. It helps with that. It balances it out. And I could tell a difference. First, I could tell a difference from the therapy, being able to recognize the signs of a depressive wave coming on. And then when I added the medical, it really changed my ability to deal with it. It helped. It balanced me. And that's when I knew I was going to be all right. And that was worth a lot.
Now.
Oh, do I think my life is great? I mean, yes, it's great. I have a beautiful son. I've got a wonderful wife. I've got a great family, extended. I've got wonderful friends. I've got a good job. Now, that's not saying that everything's all unicorns and rainbow farts, but you know, it's good. And there's also sadness. Sadness is a part of life. Recently lost some very dear people in my life. I'm still dealing with that, but that's normal. It's all right to be sad. That's something, when you have depression, you have to learn that difference. What is it to be normally sad versus always sad? So, you'll make it. You can make this, I guess, is all I want to say to people. It's not easy, and it's not always going to be wonderful, but it's good. And like I said, my life is wonderful.
Hi, I'm Erin, the college child. I just want you to know that you're not alone. Well, just a few years ago, I got to find out what it does feel like to lose someone to suicide. happened to be someone who I had dated in the past, and we broke up for reasons, like, just personal reasons. And at that moment, when they had killed themselves, we were in the process of trying to make things work and trying to work everything out, and we're planning on, if everything did work out and we were able to make it work and work through our problems together, then we were going to give it another shot. And obviously things didn't go as planned. How I found out was that one morning while I was staying over at my friend's house, I got a message from her mom, and actually that message itself woke me up. I can remember that the first time I cried was when I found out, obviously. But where I was staying with my friend, I tried to keep very quiet so I didn't want to wake her up, because it was definitely not something I really wanted to deal with right at that moment. I ended up calling my dad and having him pick me up, later after my friend did wake up, because I wasn't about to just, up and leave without saying anything. And went home. And the next day, I believe it was a Sunday, was her funeral. And I definitely, up until that point, I'd never really been to many funerals, so I didn't know that I should have shown up earlier than I was given the time I was given, because I ended up showing up late and missing getting to actually go up and see her. The entire time, I fully believed that she was going to jump out from the shadows at any minute and be like, "Got you guys! Ha! Fooled you!" But that obviously not the case, and I fully believe that as well, because it was just who she was, and it was her sense of humor, was twisted at times. I definitely remember after that, I had to go to school the next day. I didn't have a choice in the matter. And that night, I had a choir concert. And it was extremely difficult trying to get through the day of being at school and surrounded by a whole bunch of people, and also having to do a concert that night, and also having to deal with all this. And I remember it took almost a week after it happened before I could even begin to cry. And once I was able to, I immediately started blaming myself. Because had I paid more attention and had I looked closer, there were signs. It's not an excuse, but I do know the reason I didn't pay closer attention is because I was about to not graduate due to failing 2 of my classes that were really difficult classes, but still I was failing them, and I almost didn't graduate. And so due to that, I was really stressed. I was solely focused on, trying to pass at least one of them, because I needed to pass at least one to graduate. And but because of that, I did not pay closer attention, and I ended up pushing her away a little bit at times. And I really, it made me blame myself even more, and I really regret not, taking at least a moment to look. Definitely, if there was one thing I could say to her, it would definitely be that I'm sorry, and that she could have come and talked to me, even with me being stressful and even with me pushing her away. And I know, when someone pushes you away, you feel like you can't talk to them, but I really wish I could have told her that she could have still talked to me, and I still would have been there for her, had I known how dark it was getting for her. And she definitely had had problems for years, because she has MID, or MPD, multiple personality disorder, which they might have something else for it now, but like, each person that was inside her head, like, had their own mannerisms, their own language, their, like, everything was different. So I know she had a lot of demons, and I really wish I could have been there, and when it got that dark for her. But it's been a few years. It's been about 3-4 years now, and I don't blame myself anymore. I've learned to accept that I can't blame myself, because she did have these demons, these different people in her head, I don't know that even me, being there as much as I could have, would have done anything. I still wish I would have been there, obviously, but I've had to accept that I couldn't, blame myself, because I wasn't able to be there for her, or that I just wasn't. But definitely being on the other end, and also having been someone who's thought of that, thought of doing it themselves, all I can say is, please find someone to talk to. I know that I was seeing a therapist there for a minute, and in my times when I was, having those thoughts, and honestly, my time with them really, really helped, and it helped having someone that I could connect with and who understood what I was going through, and who didn't look down on me for that, and for like what I had thought and what I had done, and maybe therapists, you just haven't had a good experience with therapists, or maybe just going to therapy in itself isn't your thing, I still highly, highly, highly recommend talking to someone, anyone, like, friends, family, a psychic, a stranger on the street who's just happy to sit there and listen, anyone. Because as hard as it's going to be to talk to them, it's going to be so much better in the end. And, looking back now, obviously I still have my dark moments. I don't, but I'm happy that I never succeeded. I'm happy that I was able with help from a therapist for a while, but also, friends and family who could, who I finally opened up to and talked to about it, and who, instead of what I thought they were going to do, which was look down on me and judge me, or maybe even act like I was this small, fragile little child that you can't do anything to, or some shit. Pardon the language. But they didn't, they were able to help. They were able to help, me feel better by reassuring me that they weren't going anywhere. And even at this point, like, some of my friends I don't talk to, but I know if I, have those dark moments that I can call them and they will be there. And I can promise you there is someone there who will listen. It's just, you gotta open up, please.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm a friend. Dottie's asked me here to talk today about a rather tough subject, that being suicide. I have a little insight from both sides of the fence. Unfortunately, there was a time in my life when I thought there was no other escape and everything, and I did attempt to kill myself. Thankfully, it failed. I've tried on multiple occasions, and I've gotten lucky. I tried once trying to hang myself with a 250-pound cord. It snapped even though I was under the weight. And I tried once with a gun and the bullet didn't go off, though it fired fine the next day. The biggest thing that I felt during this time was that I was completely alone. And that was the problem, I do believe, because now I know that I'm never alone. You're not alone. If you're watching this right now, there's people out there that do care and people out there that will listen. Suicide's never the answer. The reason why I say on both sides is because recently, a very dear friend of mine, I was the best man at his wedding actually, that's how close we were. He had started this on me, this tattoo right here. It was a big horror for me to be a fanatic like I was, and we had lost touch. I hadn't reached out to him in a while, and when I went to reach out to him the same day, I found out he had shot himself in the face. He didn't know he wasn't alone. It's important that you watching this video know that you are not alone. There are people out here who can relate. There are people out here who understand, and people out here who will help you. By any means, just reach out to somebody. Suicide's never the answer. All you're doing is taking that pain that you can't handle and giving it to somebody else. It's never the answer. Just know that you're not alone. I mentioned before that I had tried myself and everything in this video, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. It wasn't a half-ass attempt. It wasn't a cry for attention. I took a 9mm, and after someone who had threatened to use suicide to control me my whole life was right at the end, I ended up trying it on myself. I was in the dark, drunk. Any substance I could put in front of me place. I was miserable. I was at rock bottom, and I took that gun and put it in my mouth and pulled the trigger. I remember the taste of the metal. I remember sweat going down my head, but I remember more than anything, I didn't even flinch when it went click. 1 in 4 billion chance that bullet wouldn't go off. And that told me maybe something out there's looking out for me. You have to come back from the darkness on your own. Nothing can bring you out, whether you succeed, whether you fail. No matter what, it's all up to you, and realizing you do have people out there. It's up to you to reach out to them too. It can't be done for you. But once you can get to the point where you realize that you're worth that help, that can start a self-healing journey to get you to at least to where I'm at now. Again, after that, about 10 years later, I had lost everything. I was 30 years old. My mother was dying. My dad and I didn't speak. I lost my job. I lost everything over a very stupid relationship with an incredibly abusive girl. And I tried to hang myself. And as I was hanging there, I was 230 pounds with a 250-pound test cord. And as I was hanging there, a lot went through my head. And then it snapped. And I had to pick myself off of the floor wondering if I was dead or not. And that was the loneliest point I've ever been in my life. Until I found out that I realized that realized what I believed to be wasn't my time to go. And because of that, I went looking for answers. But you've got to crawl yourself out from the depression. Life is too short to live that way. Just survive. And that was the big thing. When I was suicidal, I was just surviving. I was not living at all. And then I realized people cared about me, and I realized that it's time for me to start caring about myself. That a lot of the things in my head that made me this depressed and made me want to kill myself were fear. It wasn't just what was going on around my head. And I had to change my perception and work hard to do that. By doing so, I now have a healthy relationship with a wonderful wife. Like I said, got married. I was able to start my own business. You can come, I was as bottom as it gets. I'd do any drug that was put in front of me. I attempted to kill myself. I stopped going to college. Instead, I just drank all the time. The journey back was twice as hard, but it was 10 times more worth it, that I can guarantee you. You have to fight. You have to learn how to fight for yourself before you fight for anything else. And once you get past that, you'll stop just surviving. Discover life again. That's a beautiful thing. Honestly, after about the first 2 weeks, I had a very strong support system that helped me. And one day, after 2 weeks of this horrible, I'm still thinking about killing myself, thinking of ways to do it. And this sounds stupid and simple, but I got a good night's sleep. Someone actually sat there with me and showed me that they cared enough to at least watch over me. And they did, and I slept, and I woke up realizing that person cared. And I'm not the social butterfly I was in college, where everyone wants to be my friend and everyone wants to be with me and all that. I have maybe 3 friends, but those 3 friends are gold, you know? The support and love of others helped pull me out of it, but the first step was realizing that I could be pulled out of it. I mean, my friends and my family could have supported me 100%. It wouldn't have mattered until I realized it, that I was worth it and I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps. Whatever you're thinking about yourself, whatever personal demons you're hiding, it's the fear talking. It's the fear of how bad it's going to be if it comes out, or the fear of what's going to happen. And fear is not what's happened, it's what you think is going to happen. And once you can differentiate those two, you can start to heal. But you have to get over the fear and learn to love yourself, or at least like yourself.
Hi, this is Dottie the Psychic, and this is my story. I was a nurse since 2007. I got married in 2009 and moved up to my grandmother's house in the summer of 2010. And that was all well and good. We lost her that September, and really I remember that being the beginning of the downhill slide. I got a job at, it was a nursing home, so inherently I was dealing with death on a regular basis. That was part of my job. I was literally being paid to care, and at some point I was very proud of it, and then I started making terrible mistakes, and I was breaking down every day. I had a couple of nonverbal patients, and I would run into their room and I would cry while I was taking care of them, and I gotta tell you, they knew something was wrong. And what's weird is that they knew something was wrong, and I knew that they cared about me, because even though they couldn't speak, they could maybe move their hand or give you a look, and I'm like, I'm dragging these people down with me. They're in hell and I'm making it worse. Who wants to see their nurse lose their shit in the room? I went to work for CMC, and I was so proud I got the job, and I was like, I'm going to be a good nurse. I can be a good nurse. I care. I can do this. And never got out of orientation. They extended it, and then they moved me to another floor, and was starting to the point, I mean, I could see that I wasn't going to make it. I'm not stupid. I just saw I wasn't going to make it. I was still having anxiety attacks. I wasn't able to keep up with the work. It was bad. I never made it out of orientation. This was like June. I got the job in February, and this was June, late June. My sister got married, and I am embarrassed about how bad it hurt to see her happy. That was like one of the things that really broke my heart, the fact that I couldn't just be happy for my sister. She was getting her life together, things were going well, I liked her husband, and everybody got along with him, and nobody got along with my husband, and that's a different subject. I'm trying not to talk about the ex, I really am. So, my boss tells me that I'm not going to get out of orientation on her floor, but she was going to give me the option to try and find another position inside CAMC before I got the axe. And, I come back, like, I don't remember if I'd gone through the interviews or not, but I tanked them, like, bad, like, I wouldn't have hired me, because I'm obviously freaking out. This was June 29th. I don't remember where we were driving back from. I don't even remember what we were arguing about, but my ex and I were arguing hardcore in the car. And we get out and we're still screaming at each other, and the neighbors aren't saying anything, but you know the neighbors know. My grandma's friends know that my marriage is falling apart because we scream on the mountain. He goes off in the garage to do something, and I go in the room and get the gun. I walked outside. I wrote half a suicide letter, like I was going to go back and finish the thing. I don't know. I wrote half a suicide note because I couldn't explain to people why I was about to do what I was about to do. But I had to do something. I realized that this life was over. I couldn't keep going at this. I couldn't keep failing so miserably so often. And so I got fed up trying to write the suicide note. I got the gun. I walked outside behind the house. I remember thinking that, okay, if I do it here, I won't damage the house. The cops or for whoever could wrap up the remains, and the rain would wash the rest away. And so I sat down, played with the gun a little bit, made sure it was loaded, and put it to my head. Yeah, I forgot to turn the safety off, but I wasn't fully thinking at the time. It's so funny now. It's so funny that I forgot to turn the safety off. I don't know why that is amusing, but it's still, like, it's one of those moments I look back and I'm like, the half a suicide note and forgetting to turn off the safety shows what kind of brain space I was in. And I remember I looked up, and it was so beautiful. I can still see it now. The sun coming, dappling through the leaves. Found a nice shady spot. The birds are singing. And I stopped and I was wondering, like, where is anyone? I was so alone at that moment. I remember stopping and waiting for somebody to try to save me. And I'm sure they would have if they'd have known, but it's not like I called anybody or anything really. So yeah, that happened. So the next day, I go back to work where I'm tanking, and I go to try and get my patient assignment, and I have a full-blown anxiety attack where I tell all of my coworkers what I had done, that I had put the gun to my head, and God bless my manager, she just kind of came up and says, Dottie, why don't we go down to the ER? Let's get you some help. And I did. And it was strange. I gotta tell you, I love the nut bend. That was like, that is like my Xanadu of the Eastern Bloc is like, KGB, know where you are. You can't go anywhere or do anything, but you don't have to go anywhere or do anything. God. I don't know how to edit that part. But yeah, so this place, the nut bin, you couldn't have wires longer than this. You know, the bathroom doors were like those crash padding they use as, you know, to do acrobatics on. And I started my period. So I really think, ladies, there's a hormone thing. Most of the big shifts in my life, I'll work up to them and then my period will hit and then they're all, that's when it happens. I know that about myself. Try to hide before my period because I know I this myself. Like, just try to be happy in the wood. Yeah. But it wasn't over. It really, really was just the beginning. Even though that really was the beginning. The week in the nut bin was that pause where I really decided to live. And I didn't quite realize how that was going to play out yet, but I knew I wasn't going back to that ever again. And they put me on 6 months psychiatric disability. So I was off for like 6 months, and they eventually had to go back. But during that time, I lost the psychic hotline job. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try and make this a thing. I started to do videos. They're actually on an old channel that I've never fully shut down, but so during that time I started to do videos, and they were technically just awful talking head videos, but they were a start. And that's where Dottie the Psychic started. And Dottie the Psychic has been my lifeline out. And not just that, but I started talking to people on Facebook more often. And I ended up leaving. I got another nursing job, lost another nursing job, and went into tech. That didn't work out, but eventually. But during that time, I contacted an old friend, and I was like, hey, do you still have a futon open? He says, yep. I asked him if I could take my dog, because they were fighting, our dogs. We had 2 puppies, Luther and Titus. And Luther and Titus were starting to come of age, and they were starting to really start to hurt each other, and it was freaking me out. So I ran with Luther. I took Luther and ran. That was January 10th, 2018. And the last year has been wild. Did a lot of healing. And I remember there for a long time afterwards, I still had that drive. They call it the call of the void. It's got a name when you want to just randomly off yourself. I remember standing in Walmart. This is one of those moments. I was standing in Walmart and looking at the utility knives and thinking about a beautiful spray of blood I would leave for somebody to clean up. I made up a million plans. And I stopped myself every time with my reasons why. Why don't I do this? It would hurt my mom. Why don't I do this? It would hurt my brother. Why don't I do this? It would hurt everyone that cared, even a little bit. I still get like I still get moments where I start telling myself what a horrible human being I am for the stupidest things. But now I know to stop and be like, okay, I'm a horrible human being. Why? What did I do that was so bad? I don't, you know. And a lot of times it's nothing. It's just a painful echo that I've got to ignore or question, deal with. But I don't let it get to me. That's how I became Dottie the Psychic. I think I know things are so much better than they were. Even though I'm like flat broke right now. But I got my business going. I'm really starting in the right direction. I've got so much more work to do, but I see where I was and realize I've gotten so much done. It's so much better. And it's getting better. People have come back to talk to me, like after I left. Like people came out of the woodwork. All the people that I had repulsed, for lack of a better word, I don't know how to put it. Everyone I'd pushed away were coming back. It's unreal. It's unreal, like, just to watch the flow of things totally change. And they are still improving. I'm excited to see what's next. Even when things go south. Even when things take a hard left turn randomly. I know where I'm going. More or less. Yeah, things are better now. You're not alone. We're not alone. So May is not going to be this intense, but I wanted to take a moment and offer my condolences to the family members of the 3 different people I know of that have killed themselves in the last month, which is part of why this got pushed forward. I want those family members to know that you're not alone either. In cap, if enjoyed such a strong word, but if you appreciate this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, ring the bell. I swear it's not usually this intense. This is Dottie the Psychic. Safe travel and much profit to you.